I mean, who would have thought a year ago after our first meeting that we'd be here right now doing Zoom meetings? It's kind of crazy, right? So I know a lot of you guys have probably already done a lot of Zoom meetings. Some of you might be even new to Zoom meetings, but at least it's a format and an area where we can get together and have some meetings and get together and see familiar faces and get some problems solved together. So I just want to go over a few housekeeping rules up front. Like I said before, we're recording this, so make sure, like I said, that you don't say anything that you're going to regret down the road. Um, if everybody could mute themselves, that'd be super helpful. I know it happens all the time. It's even happened to me. My phone rings, my kid runs in here, knocks on the door, whatever. The doorbell rings because everybody's ordering stuff through Amazon. Dogs are barking. We understand how that works. So if you can mute yourself, that would be a huge help. Also, we know a lot of each other, but we don't know everybody. So if you haven't already, if you can right click on your name and just add which agency that you work for next to your name and maybe your job title. That way, if anybody has any questions or anything like that, they'll know who they're talking to. Also, I know Rick had mentioned that he has some issues with his video. If you have the ability to turn on your video, if you could do that, that would be a big help. If you've got issues with your video or you don't have a camera, we understand. But if you do have video and access and it works, that would be a huge help. That way people understand who they're talking to and they're able to put a name with a face, so to speak. So what else? Like I said, this video is being recorded. I got some cheat notes in front of me right now. So if you have any questions, can you hold off on the questions until the end of the segment or the area? If the question's really biting and you want to know really bad, you can type it in the chat area. Kaya's monitoring our chat area right now, and we'll be throughout the presentation. So she'll be posting links and things like that. And when it gets to the appropriate time, we'll be able to answer your questions for you. We don't want you guys to have questions that don't go answered through this. So we'll make sure that those are answered for you. It's just sometimes when we're trying to present a area or topic, sometimes the questions, although they're probably great questions, they may be answered later on in the presentation too, right? We don't know that. So let's just get through that first. If we can do that, that would be greatly appreciated. So the last thing I'm going to ask of everybody, if you haven't already, if you could check in the chat area, that's kind of our sign-in area, and type in your name, your agency, your title, and like your favorite book, TV show, or movie. Mine's Lion King, so I'm posting that now, and I'm not even kidding. But that'll help us get to know you. And later on, we can go back in there, we can check the chat, and we can find out who attended and who we maybe need to reach out to invite to the next one if they weren't able to make it. So that's all the housekeeping I have for right now. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Jamie, and I'm sure we're going to have a great presentation. So.
Hi, I'm Jamie Bartolome, as Ben said, and I'm going to share a presentation with you to go over our committee. And let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so today's presentation is on the Community Needs Planning Committee. And for those of you that are hearing about this committee for the first time, this committee was established by Yuba County Health and Human Services as a goal for our strategic plan. So we wanted to work on our communication within our department as well as outside of our department with our community partners. Our committee's comprised of Kristen Rao, she's in administration and finance. Myself, Jamie Bartolome, Child and Adult Protective Services. Liz Cornell, she's also with Child and Adult Protective Services. Amber De Vargas, Child and Adult Protective Services. Lisa Morley with Eligibility. Jason Roper with Health and Human Services. Tracy Bryan with Public Health. Kaya Galicia with Public Health. Melissa Shaw with Public Health, and Ben Martin, who you just met, with SIU. The purpose of our committee was to identify barriers and improve access to care for the following areas: substance use, behavioral health, and primary care. And we thought we needed to look at what the needs were in our community, as well as looking at gaps, maybe some barriers that were there for our clients to access these needs. So we did a survey, and the survey came back with, from the stakeholders on how to improve access to care, the capacity to provide and serve, communication, education, transportation, increase the variety of services, and best practices for improved access. So some barriers, for an example, we may have a mom or a dad who's wanting to go and seek behavioral health, and they don't have transportation, so they take the bus, and they need childcare to get to that appointment. So they don't know, they haven't ridden the bus before, they don't know to look at the schedule. So by the time they get their child to daycare and they get to their appointment, they're late. So now they have to reschedule. So those are some areas we were looking at. We got some feedback from the survey and from our community partners. And so some of that feedback was to enhance the network of care. It's a website by ensuring it's accurate information. This is actually a really great resource. And so we took a look at our information on the network and found that our information needed to be updated. So we just want to remind everyone to take a look and update your information in there if it's needed. We wanted to plan intentional networking and collaboration opportunities for stakeholders. And that's what we're doing today. We're having this collaboration and meeting with everybody. There was a previous collaboration where everyone came to our office. And from what I'm hearing, it was a great success. I was not part of that at the time, but I heard that it was successful because you got to see through the eyes of some of our participants on what barriers they face to get to these needs that they have. We're going to have more of these committee meetings as well. We also wanted to further engage stakeholders to understand and promote the transportation options available. And with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. Okay, well, with that, I'll go ahead and pass it on to Liz. She's going to do an icebreaker for us.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Liz Corneal. It's really nice to see all of your faces. So before we dive into doing a review of the Network of Care website, I want us to go ahead and do a quick little breakout session to do an icebreaker. Just some quick instructions on it. Kaya is going to be putting a link into the chat box for you to access a Google document. That Google document will have 4 different boxes for you to use, and you'll want to note in the upper left-hand corner that it'll say the room number. So when you go into your breakout room, pay attention to what room number you're going into. And then from there, we would like you to introduce each other, select a note taker, and then, of course, complete the box where you list the group numbers or group members, and then also answer the icebreaker question, which is name 3 things your agency does not have in common with the other agencies in your group. So, okay, we're gonna let you do your thing and put you into your breakout room. So pay attention to which room you're going into, because that will show you which box you're going to be completing in the Google document. Any questions? Okay.
Can I just add, sorry,
Yeah.
Everybody should open the Google Doc before they go into the breakouts.
Oh, yes. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kaya.
You're welcome.
Let's see, it looks like we're all back. So how did that go? Did we learn anything about each other, our agencies, and how we conduct business and those differences? Does anyone want to talk about what differences they found?
I'll start. I'll go for room 3. I couldn't type into the Google part, but I took notes if that's okay.
Okay.
So yes, our group was actually, it was myself and Jolie Christina Villegas and Adam Hansen, and our facilitator was Lisa. But I did learn, our agency actually has peace officers that are employed for our agency. The schools contract that out, but we actually have that. Harmony Health actually provides medical services on site, which we don't do that. And they also provide glasses. And the amazing thing, Adam has the ability to transport 2,900 people at one time if necessary, because he works for the transit system. But I did learn in our conversation that the transit system actually does not allow, and correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, to actually deliver kids to school. They have to take them and drop them off the bus stop. They physically aren't allowed to drive on to the campuses, except for like the college, but like actually like our K through 12. Am I right, Adam? Yeah. So I did not know that. So I feel pretty good.
Yeah, that is really interesting about the bus
Mhm.
system.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony.
Did we pass? Did we win?
Yeah,
No?
you totally passed.
All right, see,
Absolutely.
I knew we would. I knew Mark Solsmeiser's team was going to come in second, but that's all right.
A very
I
close
didn't-
second. Very close.
I didn't know there were prizes.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I
rights.
forgot to mention that.
Bragging rights till the next meeting.
Would anyone else like to share from their group?
Anna had a great point that she was bringing up during our meeting with the traumatic brain program that they have. Is Anna there? Want to talk more about that,
I'm
Anna?
still here. Yeah, that I was mid-sentence when we all got grabbed out. So at our agency, we serve people with disabilities primarily. And our agency was started by people with disabilities to serve people with disabilities. So we have a lot of folks on both ends. So a lot of peer support going on. But we have a unique program for persons with traumatic brain injury that has taken a lot of advocacy to get it off the ground, because there really wasn't, there's services for somebody if they had a traumatic brain injury when they were injured as a child before they turn 18. But if you're 18 and one day and you are in a car crash and have a traumatic brain injury, there hasn't been a lot available for people in that realm. So we've been working to create those type of services for TBI.
So I have a question about that. Is that also available to our veterans as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, before COVID, we were having support groups in our office, and we had started reaching out to veterans, and we were starting a support group specifically designed for them because their needs were a little different than the general population, so to speak. So yes, definitely. And we're
Very
hoping to
interesting.
get back to those we have a Zoom meeting that's a support group between our two areas because we have an office in Grass Valley and here. And so we've been doing a Zoom meeting, but not everybody can access that. So we really hope to do something in the parks once the weather's better.
Thank you for sharing, Anna. That was great information. I didn't know that about the TBI. Anyone else? If not, I'll go ahead and move on. Okay. So now I'm going to take us into talking about the Network of Care website. Let me go ahead and share my screen real quick. Kaya is going to enter the link for the Network of Care website into the chat box as well. So if you'd like to click on it and click along with me, feel free. If you want to just sit back and relax, feel free to do that as well. But ultimately, we decided to make this one of our first topics to discuss at one of these convenings is because at our first stakeholder meeting, that was one of the big like aha moments in our meeting where we realized some people knew about it, some people didn't know about it, some people didn't even know how to update it if they needed to update information on the site. So once we realized that this was a really great resource for our community, and we just needed to make sure that it was up to date for our community to access accurate information about what's happening with our services, our team decided that this was definitely a goal that we should approach with everyone within the community. So I had sent out a little instruction sheet on how to update the Network of Care site. So that is in your materials as well, that was sent to you, but I'm just gonna take you through the steps real quick. It's super easy. If you notice at the top of the Network of Care site, you have your all your different menu options, and there's a lot of good different information that I suggest checking out if you haven't had time to browse. But for today, we're going to go to our services tab, and then we're going to go down to our update listing tab. And once we click on that, that will take us to our search menu. And one thing I suggest when you're searching for your agency is less is more. For example, Yuba County Health and Human Services has a lot of different divisions. And so one thing we decided as a department is that we're going to update the Network of Care site with each division. And I think about like clinics and that sort of thing that our community is trying to look for information on. And one thing I noticed, for example, is if I were to search for Peachtree Clinic, nothing comes up. But if I search for just, oops, let me go back. If I search for Peachtree, there's Peachtree Health, which brings us to the menu information that we can click on to see all the different services that Peachtree Health provides to our community. So yeah, definitely less is more when you're looking for your agency. And if for some reason you can't find it, there's also the option to add a new agency, which is on the left-hand side of the menu option. So today, I'm just gonna bring up our Yuba County Health and Human Services. Oops. And I'm gonna search for that. And here you can see, I can click on our hyperlink. And then from here, there's a lot of different information you can review. But since I know I want to go ahead and suggest edits, I'm just going to go ahead and click on this blue bar at the upper right-hand corner. And it takes you in where you can automatically just start updating information regarding your agency. It starts with just the general basics of agency name, description of the agency, but then you can get into multiple detail where you can add in addresses. If you have multiple addresses, you can go ahead and click the additional address to include those. You can also specify your mailing address. Same thing with phone numbers. If your agency has multiple phone numbers, you can add additional phone numbers, so you're just not limited to one. Same thing with fax information. There's a lot of good just general information. And here's email and website information. This is a great one for us in particular because we'll be able to update each division's information with our website information. Perfect example. We have our Health and Human Services, and then we have our website for See for Yourself for people who are interested in applying for welfare benefits. You can also include the language spoken that's available at your agency. And then this is a section that I think is really interesting. for agencies, because it really gets down into the nitty gritty of the type of services that you provide to the community, such as if there's an application process, if there's documents required for accessing your agency, if you serve a specific population, you can list that. If there's eligibility requirements, if you want to list your license number, and if there's any fees. So there's a lot of great information that the Network of Care website provides to our community. And that's why we're really wanting to encourage all our community partners to look for their listing in the Network of Care and update it as accurately as possible so that our community is able to access that accurate information. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to questions. Does anyone have any questions regarding the Network of Care site? I'm going to stop my screen.
I have a question, Liz.
Yes.
How many people, do you know how many people access the site in a month?
You know, I believe I did see that statistic. It's quite a few. That's right. It's 4,000 page views per month. So that's a lot of people for our community. And it would be, I think, amazing if we could even up that because it does become a site that has more accurate, updated information for what's currently happening with COVID. So yeah, 4,000 page reviews per month is a lot. Oh, and I see Kaya also included in the chat box the document that I had sent earlier for updating the Network of Care site. So if you can't locate that, feel free to open that.
I have a question, Liz.
Yes.
So once you submit this updated information, does that get submitted to somebody else then who moderates that and then updates the site so that not anybody, or how do they do that part of it to do a check on?
So there is cross-referencing, yes. The information is submitted to the like the admin, and that actually happens to be John Flo, and he reviews to make sure it's looking accurate for the agency, and then it gets uploaded to the website. So I did hear that that could take anywhere from like 2 days to even up to a week for that new information to reflect, just to allow for that cross-referencing, making sure it's accurate. Good question.
Did you ask because it kind of looks like anybody can just go in there and update it, right? Like, is that what you're, yeah.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah. That's,
Oh, you guys can't hear me, huh?
oh, go ahead, Alicia.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was like, my computer's cutting out a lot, so I apologize. I'm having like internet issues today. You know, I just had a quick question to piggyback off what Mark had stated. It sounds like you guys are, you know, kind of constantly updating this on a regular basis. It's accurate. And I did see some outside agencies in there. We do have our own like internal 211 that we monitor on a regular basis. So it might be something you want to like push that up against to see if there's any.
I think we lost her. I also want to add, Mark, that you do have to submit your name and email address with your submission. And so I'm assuming, yeah, John Flo and or his team does some checking on that.
Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pass this on to Lisa Morley. She's going to take us into our next bit of our presentation.
Thank you, Liz. Well, now we're at collaboration question. So here's the question. What have you changed to help accommodate access to services to the community during COVID-19 pandemic? So how have you adapted, or what's been different now?
I
Well, how
can talk
about you?
about that.
Okay.
So it freed back March, when everything shut down, we wanted to keep all of our services running, and immediately had a recognition of the issue of getting people food who were sheltering in place. And so we coordinated with the food bank and helped refer people to do food deliveries and all of that. That issue has continued and been a thread throughout. We never did stop serving. None of our programs stopped running. We just had to pivot to figure out how to make contact with people and utilize all of the different technology that we could. So I'm sure all of you are very experienced in Zoom now. I know we are. And we also started distributing Chromebooks. We got a donation of 100 Chromebooks that we got out to people who never had access to technology. We're helping them figure out how to set up internet. We're still doing a lot of walking with people through that process to get used to using technology for communication and to break down isolation. I think the three biggest issues that we found we needed to help people with was that crossing that digital divide, and then making sure that food insecurity was addressed. So we've just tried to find any creative way that we could to make those things happen.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, I will speak, Jolie, from the school district. The education never stopped. It continued using Chromebooks, and that became another hurdle with a lot of families not understanding how to use technology. So we've made over 2,500 visits, home visits during this time to get kids connected. As soon as we were able to, we brought the higher risk students that needed some more, that were not engaged in school, have actually been accessing school so that they can have a place to do internet up in our foothills, because internet is a problem. We've been busing students to like Yuba Feather and Dobbin School, especially the high school students, to access the internet and access their classes via Zoom on their Chromebooks. We continued to feed families, so that never stopped. A lot of our administrators were the ones who were out helping nutritional services get food out to the families. And we just continue to try to make that relationship piece with our families positive, and doing everything we can. Partnered with a lot of different agencies to get school, to get kids clothing, warm clothing, sheltered. We still continued our multidisciplinary teams with our student attendance review board, as well as our displaced youth, providing families services and clothing. So that's the school district. We haven't stopped. So this year has gone by actually pretty fast, which is, I'm sure, been an eternity for kids, right? They're like, oh my God, it's been 10 years since I've been in school. So happy to get them back. They need to be in school.
Nice. So Liz, can I ask you, how about you? How have you adapted through COVID-19?
So with Yuba County Health and Human Services, one of the big things we did was we had everyone begin teleworking. But then that doesn't mean our services stop, right? So we've been doing a lot of electronic applications for welfare, and then also for our child welfare services. Our social workers have still been having to connect with our families. So there's been a lot of Zoom home visits, and there's been visitation that we've still been conducting. And with those visitations, if we can, we try to do Zoom. Otherwise, we have set up our visitation center to have markers to help with the social distancing. We're doing health screenings within the department to make sure it's a safe and healthy location for not just our staff, but for our families and children that are coming into the office. And you know, it's definitely been an experience, but it's amazing to see how cooperative and such teamwork we've had within our department, and then also with our families that we're serving. It's been a really inspiring long year.
Oh, nice.
One of the things that I hadn't thought about, but I think I heard it in a meeting somewhere, right? Is visitation for families who are not, like, who have been, you know, displaced from each other. And how do you, like the kids want to, you know, run to their parents and likewise, right? So like, I can't imagine what that must be like not being able to, I don't know, that's something that I hadn't even considered. So I don't know.
Yeah, that was a big challenge for us in the visitation, and just setting up protocols and keeping some social distancing. But we were pretty fortunate that a lot of our staff that were in there designed the visitation services for like age appropriate activities. And some of the guidelines we had didn't, you know, we're not going to tell a 3-year-old not to hug a mom or a dad, but our service providers in there said that they started being creative, saying, now let's blow kisses and let's do hugs. And there were times when they actually were hugging their kids. And you know, it's that quick interaction. And what we've learned from Dr. Lou is it's better for a parent to hug a child standing up than getting down on their knees, because then when they're down on their knees and they're hugging each other, they have that face to face, and that's where the issue that concerns. So our staff are really productive, again, like designing the environment and keeping some of the activities to a minimal, but still encouraging that kind of interaction. But it was very challenging, that's for sure. Very challenging.
Oh. Huh. Good info. Jason, how about you and your new role? How have you changed?
Sorry. Interesting question. So I spend a lot of time on Zoom right now, getting to know people or reconnecting with people, I should say. I think as I mentioned at the beginning or the outset of this, these COVID clinics have been great because I've been able to reach out and kind of connect with some of our partners, whether it be Bi-County Ambulance or even Sutter County, the different individuals that come from those counties. But a lot of Zoom in my new role at Health and Human at this point. I'm hoping that will start to change a little bit, you know, with some time here the next month or so. But just, you know, as a new person to HHS, I think some of the things I've noticed, like there are some things that have really improved with the use of technology. Liz kind of alluded to it, but some of the processing for applications for benefits, those things can be done electronically. And so the need to actually come out or try to access transportation to get to the building and spending time on a bus, some of those things have improved vastly for the clients out there.
Yes, good point. In eligibility, we're able to do, for example, CalFresh recertifications if the customer opts into over the phone and obtain that electronic signature. So yes, we try to make it as possible for the customer to not have to leave their home. Well, thank you, everyone. So
before we move on, can I ask, so we didn't hear from any of the behavioral health partners, and I think we have at least 2 on the call or on the Zoom. So maybe we can hear about some behavioral health stuff.
So I'll speak a little bit. I'm Mark Slitzmeyer with Sutter Youth Behavioral Health in Sutter County. So one of the things that we've been fortunate at behavioral health with the adult services, on the adult services side, that we had already a section in our reception area that was kind of glassed off. It was a business office kind of cubicle area. And so we've been able, since the beginning, we all know that some of our consumers are able to use technology and telehealth, but some aren't. So we have been able to offer some limited one-on-one in-person services to folks who don't have the access to phones or computers. by meeting with in sort of that glass, with a glass barrier there, so to protect the staff. So that's something that we've done since the beginning. It's, like I said, it's kind of been on a limited basis, but that's helped. We've also been offering, like other folks have done, telehealth, Zoom, or we used Microsoft Teams, which not everybody's a fan of Teams, including me, but we've used that platform quite a bit. We've now started doing groups using telehealth groups, basically. So we've adapted in that way. And then also on the APS and IHSS side, we've continued to offer services remotely for so that people can sign up for IHSS and get those services as well.
And this is Meredith, Director of Behavioral Health with Peachtree Healthcare. Similar to what Mark mentioned, we've been able to now provide telehealth services that are reimbursed, which the state previously was not allowing. We have adapted to an electronic health record virtual meeting room so that the patient will get a link on their phone and then can have a virtual appointment with their provider, and it will go directly into the information will go directly into the health record, which has made it a lot more convenient for providers to provide telehealth. But meeting on the phone has really broadened our reach. We had a lot of folks that were up in the foothills that couldn't attend any kind of therapy appointment because of the issues with transportation or childcare, and now have the ability to speak to a practitioner. So that has made, that's the silver lining that we've had with COVID, is the ability to reach folks we've never been able to reach before.
That's great. Okay. Well, then following is Kristen.
Hi, everyone. We wanted to let you know that at the next convening on Wednesday, April the 28th, Yuba Sutter Transit, Anthem, and California Health and Wellness will each be doing a presentation on transportation. So please submit any questions that you may have regarding transportation by either typing them into the chat, or you can email Liz Corneal by Friday, April 9th. And Kaya has entered Liz's email into the chat in case anybody needs it. So with that, the next presenter is Amber.
Okay, hi everyone. So the direction for our meeting today was to give everybody some insight on the network of care and how to update that for the best information to our communities. Our next meeting, like she said, is for transportation, and that was due from last year's convening because that was our big goal of making sure transportation was met. So the next convening will be held in May, and we are looking for what you all would be interested in getting into that convening. And we're going to send out a poll as far as what topic you would like to be addressed at that May convening. And then we can get some community members to coordinate and present at the next one. So we just wanted to thank you all for coming out, and make sure you submit that poll for our next meeting coming together.
So real quick, when Lisa had asked me about my new role here, I guess I'll take this opportunity to just share with all of you. I am with Health and Human Services now, and my focus is going to be working with all of you as our community partners. And so please feel free to reach out to me as well as Liz, and we can talk about how things are working. How is HHS being a good partner, or what are the things that we can do to improve, to be a better partner with all of you? And I think likewise, some of you may be starting to receive calls in the next few weeks, just asking more specific questions about what you guys do and how we can improve access for our services. But I think from an HHS perspective, how can we help our clients access your systems better? So anyways, just feel free to reach out to me as well. I'm sure Kaya will put my email in the chat. I'm excited about this opportunity and look forward to working with all of you guys.
I just wanted to add a couple things too real quick. So I know it mentioned several times and you guys were there before. It's been almost a year ago since we had our first convening. And I know with the pandemic hit and things like that, I mean, it's obviously it was a huge setback. Okay. But I've got a quote that I've always kind of believed in and I preach to my kids when I coach and all that is a setback is a setup for a comeback. Okay. And I've always kind of lived that philosophy, especially with coaching and my son and my personal life and things like that. So it's one of those things. I think even though we went through a lot, people seem to improvise and get through things. And I think in the end, it's going to make us a whole lot stronger. So I think this is the first step on our way to a comeback. And I think we're off to a great start. And hopefully with your guys' help and spreading the word about the information that's coming out there, the meetings will start getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the information will be great because we'll be able to get expanded out to all you Bucyrus County areas and help everybody that we want to do in the first place. That's our goal, right? We're here to help our people in our community. So the more we can get a word out, the better it's going to be for them. So thank you guys for attending today.